Man, alive. Oh, okay. There it is. Darn it. Y'all give me just a second. I don't know if I think I'm live. I do this every damn time. Uh, y'all give me 1 second. Am I live? Okay. All right. I'm live. Let me mute this on my end. All right, y'all give me just a second and I'll be right back. I'm gonna play a song by brother Amin and his wife. I can't think of his wife's name. The name of the song is called Citizen. And after that, we'll get into the show. We'll be right back. Let me do this. Okay.
But as long as you run around here wearing the white man's name, bragging about you one of the Jones, or one of the Browns, or one of the Smiths, or as long as you run around here bragging about your part in this so-called American democracy, then you will always be looked down upon as a chump by the white man. You never will be given recognition nor respect.
You think that you a citizen? Citizens don't get harassed and worry about the police killing them. You represent the USA? Well, they try to find ways to kill your black ass every day, huh? You love the red, white, and blue? Well, I wonder how this government feel about you. You call yourself a patriot, I call it all an act. How can you love a country that never loved you back, huh?
When did Uncle Sam start loving black folks? When he took away our land, our names, and all hoes. Maybe when it worked us, till our back broke. Let's jump off this slave ship and do the backstroke. But you don't wanna leave your slavery and Jim Crow. You think you know it all, but it's all that you know. Your perm and your job, fast food to go. Big screen TVs and reality shows. They either killing it fast or killing it slow. Decreasing the odds of our children to grow. Got them popping the bars and snorting the snow. Having dreams of selling crack, rap or making the pros. The school is full of crack teachers making them doze. They wake up in the cell guard taking their clothes. We don't say shit until the casket enrolls. Uncle Sam, big pimpin', we get treated like hoes.
Uncle Sam, big pimpin', we get treated like hoes. The Asians and the Arabs in the hood getting chose. Where we run through the highs and crawl through the lows. Korea in my hair, Vietnam on my toes. Arab disrespect me when I walk in their stores, but I got nowhere else to go as my dignity grows. My mind goes numb, my sensitivity slows. My heart grows cold until it's finally froze. This is the place that don't respect us. I don't think that it's fair. I gotta talk like I'm a pepperwood and straighten my hair. Best to get a shitty job with a desk and a chair. My man ain't had no luck, but what I get we can share. Only thing is they gon' kick me out my house if he there. I don't fuck with child support if he ain't doing his share. I won't give him to the enemy. What good is he there? Crack a garnish in his wages, got y'all thinking he cares.
You think that you a citizen? Citizens don't get harassed and worry about the police killing them. You represent the USA? Well, they try to find ways to kill your black ass every day. You love the red, white, and blue? Well, I wonder how this government feel about you. You call yourself a patriot, I call it all an act. How can you love a country that never loved you back, huh?
All right. That was brother Mean and his wife. I can't forget his wife's name, but shout out to brother Amin. That was their song Citizen. But first I want to say peace and black African power. Let me change this camera. All right. Like I said, I want to say peace and black African power. Welcome back to Kofi Piesie Research Team TV. I am Kofi Piesie. Y'all gotta excuse me today. I'm comfortable. I didn't feel like putting nothing on. My hair is not combed. I got on a wrinkled t-shirt, but we all family. But again, peace and Black African power, man. Please like and share the show. First, I want to say ETM Hotep, Dua Aku, Dua Necha, Fatmu Alafie, Fatmu Riwi, Fatmu Iwa Pele, Majuba Ibi Gungun, Majuba Ibi Gungun, Majuba Ibi Alakba, Majuba Ibi Alak, Ba Igungun, Kiki Igungun. I always want to give honor and praises to the ancestors because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. I also would like to extend honor and praises to the true and living elders according to an African perspective and from an African worldview. And we're going to continue to stress this over here. Just because you are older than me, do not make you my elder. You have to meet those standards and those criteria of what an elder actually possess from an African perspective and from an African worldview. So if you don't meet those standards and those criteria, then you are just an older and not an elder to me. Before we get into it, I have to do this and we're going to jump into it. I have to always promote some of the things that we got going on for people that may not be familiar with what we actually are doing over here. Damn it, man. Let me go to it. This is brands, banners. All right, here you go. If you don't have beautiful lessons about Kimoyo, please go get beautiful lessons about Kimoyo. This is a book that breaks down the different elements that make up Kimoyo, or what people are referring to right now as African traditional religion, African spirituality. I walk you through those different elements that make up what we are calling today Kimoyo. And we're actually going to be dealing with chapter 2 in my book today, Kimoyo, which will be dealing with evolution and the humanity birth on earth and the birth of Kimoyo. Also, if you don't have Spear Masters, a historical survey in the minds of African warrior scholars, volume 4, please go get that as well. This is our 4th installment. I think y'all have greatly appreciated. Spear Masters is a name that we took from the Sudan, from the Dinka people in the South Sudan. This name inspired us. This mythology story inspired us, and just the culture in general of the people of the Dinka in the South Sudan. Also, if you don't have What Sars COVID taught me by our brother Inherit Sean Calfani, please go get that as well. We are still in a pandemic. For those that may not know how the immune system works, what is in a vaccine, what is COVID-19, who perpetuate misinformation, and the tons of other stuff. If you want to be informed, please go get this book, What SARS-CoV-2 Taught Me by Inherit Sean Calfani. Also, we have Spear Masters Institution. We created an institution for kids. We not only directing toward high education for the adults in the scholastic era, but we also targeting toward the kids. So we got a Spearmaster Institution, an institution that is directly toward the kids. So we got a Spearmaster Coloring Book 1. It's a learning coloring book. As the kids learn, as the kids color and have fun, they are also learning. We have Cujo, Chinky, and Albina, who is the characters in the book, who is actually teaching the kids what they are actually coloring. Also, if you don't have our brother religious beliefs, religious belief revisited, the Tep Hesed edition by our brother Travis Tep Hesed McCrae, you can also go get that. I'm telling you, it's a nice book as well. Also, here's another one, Spear Masters Institution. If you don't have Spear Masters Institution, the Comprehension Book 1, this is also from our institution. This is the Comprehension Book. This is from the ages of 13 through 21. It's a variety of information in the book, and they will be tested on the information in the book. Also, if you support the new independent African Academy, the new independent African Academy, we appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. Go get your shirts, New Independent African t-shirts. Also go get your hoodies as well. Now that I got that out the way, let me get that out the way. Damn. Let me get this out the screen. So real quick, you know, every week we come on, we want to talk about the codes of conducts. Again, this is a safe place over here. So we're going to read that, then we're going to get into it. So the new Independent African Academy community mandates. Number one, never talk down on another NII member in public. Number two, no pseudo. Number three, research methodology must be followed. Number four, teach those who are ready and willing to learn. Number five, support the members. Number six, disagreements handled in private. Number seven, no one is above correction. Number eight, we must stand on Black Africa, the descendants in the diaspora. Number nine, zero tolerance for dishonesty. Number 10, Iwariri. Iwariri just means good character. The standards for as how one must conduct themselves. Number 11, no selfless acts. Number 12, no paraphernalia. Number 14, no disrespecting Black women. Number 15, race first. Number 16, supporting Black businesses. Number 17, integrity. Number 18, must possess the will to learn. Number 19, each one teach one. Each one teach one, or as I learn, we all learn. These are the goals. Producing, number one, producing more authors. Number two, producing exceptional men and women. Number three, institutions for learning. Number four, entrepreneurship. Number five, scientific literacy. Number six, scholarships for the youth. Number seven, long-lasting marriages. Number eight, creating rites of passages. Number nine, unifications. Number 10 is supporting multiple support groups. So now that I got that out the way, and for, like I said, anybody that's rocking with the new Independent African Academy, this space over here, and you want those, and you want to be down, you feeling what we got and what we're actually trying to do, what we're trying to achieve, then I'll definitely email you these codes of conducts and these mandates. And if you have a platform, you can definitely read these off on your platform as well to get people familiar with the new Independent African Academy and what you're going to stand for, what you stand for on your own platform. This is what the standard is on your platform, because it's definitely what the standard is on our platform. Again, peace to everybody that's in the chat. Please like and share the show. I'm going to go through, we're going to deal with chapter 2. I'm going to read, let me share my screen. I want to first read some definitions first, you know what I'm saying? Just for people that may not know some of these things that we actually going to be dealing with, we actually going to be talking about. Let me share my screen. Y'all let me know when my screen is sharing. Let me share it. Slides, extra camera. Wow, they got new stuff on here. I need to check this new stuff out on here. Extra camera. Okay. Let me know when my screen is sharing, y'all. Here we go here. Y'all let me know when my screen share. Let me go back on this computer over here. I can look at it and tell as well. Okay. All right. I can see I'm sharing my screen. So today's show is evolution, because we're going to be talking about evolution, Africa, the place of humanity, and Kimoyo, right? So I'm just a few brief definitions, evolution, for people that may not know. Simple definitions. I just Google these real quick from off the Oxford Dictionary. All these definition comes off the Oxford Dictionary. So evolution is something real simple. Nothing too deep, but evolution is the process of which different kinds of living organisms are thought to have developed in diversity from early forms during the history of the earth. Something, like I said, something simple, not going too deep in it, but just trying to give everybody a brief definition of what it is, because we're going to be talking about evolution. Species, we're definitely going to be talking about species. So species, a group of living organisms consisting of similar individuals' capabilities of exchanging genes or interbreeding. A species of principles, natural taxonomy units ranking below. A genus denotes by the Latin binom or Homo sapien, right? Another one, natural selection. The process whereby organisms better adapt to their environment tends to survive or produce more offsprings. The theory of its action was first fully expounded by Charles Darwin, and it is now believed to be the main process that brings about evolution. So these are just some basics because we're going to be talking about some of these things. So I just wanted to define. That's just me. I just like defining certain things so people can kind of keep up. And some people may know it's not to put them up and saying that the people that's watching are dumb or I'm trying to insult their intelligence. That's just something that I just like doing. If you follow a lot of my research, I have like a lot of working definitions before I get started with whatever I'm trying to do. I'm gonna go here because I'm gonna share some of my book. So right here, this is let me go to the chapter. Give me just a second. I should have already been on the chapter. All right. And we're gonna deal with chapter 1 too, because I not today, but I wanted to deal with chapter 1 so I can get people familiar with why we don't want to use the term African traditional religion, African spirituality anymore. Some people should already know because I done, kind of conveyed it numerous times, but we're gonna definitely get into it and get into some of those terms, African traditional religion and African spirituality, and we're gonna get into the deeper meaning of what Kimoyo is and why we're trying to push forward with the word Kimoyo, replacing those other two words with Kimoyo. But here we go. This is chapter 2 in my book. For people that got the book, you can pull out the book and you can follow along this way. But we're gonna read some stuff. We're gonna break some stuff down from the book. So again, this is chapter 2, the African place of humanity and Kimoyo, right? So this is on page 32. We're going into 33. So let's start. And as I read, I'm gonna stop. We're gonna break some stuff down. I may go to something else, flip to something else, just to try to make a point or give you a visual on something if I can. All right. So there has been a consensus of Africa being the mother continent due to it being the oldest inhabited continent on Earth. I don't think no one that's watching right now can disagree with that. Africa is the birthplace of humanity. There is a major consensus on that, right? Humans ancestors have lived in Africa for more than 5 million years. Africa, the second largest continent, is bounded by the Mediterranean Sea, the Red Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Atlantic Ocean. The rise of human ancestors, paleontologist, what's her name? Katina Harvita says anthropologists have discovered thousands of fossils of our extinct ancestors. There is now a pretty good picture of a general pattern of our evolution since separation of the human lineage from that of the chimpanzee some 7 million years ago. This is the hominin timeline. Until recent, it was believed that human evolution was a straightforward process with a single line species connected to modern humans to an ape-like ancestors. However, our history is much more complicated. And if you Google evolution and you just click onto the image, you will see this straight line image of they saying how humans or how humanity develop over time. You see this straightforward with the ape and the straight line. I'll show that in a minute. Matter of fact, I'll show that right now so people can understand what we're talking about, because I want to try to show visuals of some of this stuff that I'm talking about too. They actually believe it went in a straight line in the beginning, but as time goes on and you study evolution, you'll see that that's not. But here's a simple picture right here, and we'll move on. All right. Well, let's see. Is it okay? Right. Let's see. I'll deal with this in here. Well, let's do this here. I'll get that one. Should have been this. I just clicked on something real right quick. But you see how it says we begin to evolve over different time, and it's other pictures that's a little bit better than this over time, but that's not actually that's how they believe then. But now let's get back into it. All right. Hold on, y'all. Dang. Let me go back. Darn. I clicked off the thing. All right. All right, but it says, however, our history is much more complicated than this. Many species coexist and overlapped it. It says many species coexisted and overlapped it, and some lineage became extinct along the way. There is no single missing link between our ancestors and those of other apes. Of course, that is not to say that we know everything there is to know about human evolution. The fossils recorded contain only bones and ended up in an ideal conditions of preservation. In addition, the individual members of the species, including modern humans, differ from another by varied degrees, and different groups separated into distinct species only slowly through the process of continuing change. Right? That's my source up there. 55 million years ago, the first primitive primate involved. 8 through 6 million years ago, the first gorilla involved, later chimps and human lineage diversity. 5.8 million years ago, the orangutanus, the oldest human ancestors thought to have walked on 2 legs. 5.5 million years ago, the Ardipithecus, early proto-human, shared traits with chimps and gorillas in the forest dwelling. 4 million years ago, Australopithecus appeared. They have brains no larger than chimpanzees, with the volume around 400 to 500, but walks upright on 2 legs, the first human ancestor to live on the savannah. 3.2 million years ago, Lucy, a famous specimen at Australopithecus africanus, lived near what is now the Hadar, Ethiopia. 2.7 million years ago, the Parathropus, if I'm saying that right, lived in woods and grasslands, has massive jaws for chewing, and roots of vegetation, becomes extinct 1.2 million years ago. 2.5 million years ago, Homo habilis appears. His face protrudes less than earlier hominins, but still remains many ape features. It has a brain volume of around 600. Hominids started to use stone tools regularly created by spitting pebbles and beginning the Ottawan traditions of tool making, which lasted 1 million years. So let's look at what they're talking about with these hominids that started using these stones. I'm just going to show you this real quick, and we'll get back into what we was getting. Somebody popped on here. I hope they able to get in. Hold on, y'all. Let me show this real quick, and I'll see who that is right here. But I'm gonna break a picture of it. So these are what they're talking about. Some of the early tool stones that these early hominids began to use right here. All right, let me go back over here to make sure who is this in here and popped in here. Okay, T'Challa popped in here. All right, let's go back over here. All right, now hominids started to use stone tools regularly, creating the spitting of the Ottawa tradition and tool making, which lasted for 2 million years. We know they used some of them pebbles, those stones that I showed you, to make axe and other different tools, right? Some hominids developed meat-rich diets as scavengers. The extra energy have favored the evolution of larger brains. 2 million years ago, evidence of a Homo ergaster with a brain volume of up to 850 in Africa. 1.8 to 1.5 million years ago, Homo erectus is found in Asia. First, the true hunter-gatherer ancestor, and also the first have migrated out of Africa in large numbers. It attains a brain size around 1,000. 1.6 million years ago, possible first sporadic use of suggested by discoloring sediments of the Kobe Fara, Kenya. More convincing evidence of charred wood, stone tools is found in Israel and dated to 780,000 years ago. More complex Acheulean stones tools started to be produced and are the dominant technology until 100,000 years ago. 600,000 years ago, you get the Homo heidelbergensis, lives in Africa and Europe, similar brain capacity of a modern human. 500,000 years ago, the early evidence of a purpose-built shelter wooden huts are known for sites near Chichuba, Japan. 400,000 years ago, early humans began to hunt with spears, right? 325,000 years ago, the oldest surviving human footprint are left by 3 people who scrambled down the slopes of the volcano in Italy. 200,000 years ago, the first complex stone blades of grinding stones. 230,000 years ago, Neanderthals appear and are found across Europe, from Britain in the west of Ireland in the east until they became extinct in the evident modern human 28,000 years ago. And I'm going to talk about it in a minute, why I'm talking about early man and going through our stages, right? And the different, going through the stages and the trials and area, the development of new technology. In a minute, for people who read my book, people might already understand and get legit why I talk about early man and our early man existing, right? 195,000 years ago, our home species, Homo sapien, appears on the scene, and shortly after beginning, the migrated across Asia and Europe. The oldest modern human remains are 2 skulls found in Ethiopia and dated to this period. The average human brain volume is 1350, and this is my my source here at the bottom, right here. I cite where I cited this. How are African traditional religions and Kimoyo was founded? But first, before I get into that, T'Challa, peace, brother. I know you popped on the panel. I wanted to try to get through those different stages of early man and some of the things that they actually did and contributed. What's up with you, brother?
Peace. It's all good. I'm sitting back listening. Do your thing.
Okay. All right. No doubt. That's brother T'Challa Bongara. But I just wanted to walk y'all through that at first, so y'all kind of understand where I'm going when we start getting into the other thing in the other bill, like, okay, how African traditional religion or Kimoyo actually was founded. I mentioned numerous times in the presentation and 2 publications that some world religions like Judaism, Christianity, Islam has found are founders who started them, right? So, and this too this is like a learning lesson. So this book, me putting this book together, was for the neophytes, you know what I'm saying? Those who didn't know anything, and for those who knew something but wanted to know more, and to clear up some misinformation, because a lot of times we compare African traditional religion, which like I'm saying, we're trying to get away from that, the ATR, African spirituality, and replace it with Kimoyo, right? And so I wanted to break down some of the things as well, but also break down how the traditions how they actually develop, right? So, and most of what we call Kimoyo today, or what y'all refer to as African traditional religions, like most Western religion, they have these founders, right? Christianity, Judaism, and Islam has founders. So I try to walk you through and see and compare and contrast with those. Do African traditional religion or Kimoyo, African spirituality, do they have founders, right? But let's see. This is not the case of African traditional religion or Kimoyo. But before I go any further, let us define Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, right? So Judaism is an old Abrahamic religion originated in the people of ancient Israel and Judah. Excuse me, y'all. Judaism is based on a primary of a Torah text, which some texts believe was handed down by the people of Israel through the prophet Moses, right? So we know that through Judaism, they have a certain patron who would be, you can say, would be the founder, would be Moses, who brought them the Torah, right? And they had a specific book that they had to follow. African traditional religion or African spirituality, or do Kimoyo have the same thing? I told you no, that is not the case, that they have found. But we're going to keep going. But this is along with the rest of the Hebrew Bible and the Talmud and central texts of Judaism. The Jewish people are scattered after the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, 770 CE. Today, about 13 million Jews, or about 40%, living of Israel and 40% in the United States. Christianity. It is based on the life of teaching of the Jesus of Nazareth, the first century. So now with the Christians, they have their founder would be Jesus, right? Presented in the New Testament, the Christian faith is essential faith of Jesus as the Christ, the Son of God, the Savior of the Lord, Savior and Lord. Almost all Christians believe in the Trinity, which teaches the unity of Father, Son, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Ghost in three persons in one Godhead. Most Christians can describe their faith with the Nicene Creed. I might come back to that and revisit the Nicene, and we can kind of talk about the Nicene Creed for people that may not know what the Nicene Creed is, and give you a book, you know what I'm saying, that I think that has some pretty detailed information in how the Jesus character was actually created through an historical record, not from a mythological standpoint, but from an historical standpoint on how this creation of Jesus, the Christ, was actually created. So you have so many different creeds, and I might share some of that stuff in that book and go get that book in a few minutes. But the Nicene Creed, as long as religious Byzantine empires in the first millennium of the Western Europe during the time of colonization, Christianity has been propagated throughout the world. The main division of Christianities are according to the numbers of it heard. I'm not going to read all of this, but you know, Christianity, for people that may not know, you got Catholic, you got Protestant, you got Presbyterian, you got Seventh-day Adventists, you got Pentecostal, you got the Mormons. If I didn't do the Mormons, you got Jehovah's Witness. Man, it's ton. You got God, Church of God in Christ. You got so many different branches of Christianity. You've got Baptists, Southern Baptists, right? And all of them do not believe in the same thing, right? Islam is based on the Quran, one of the holy books considered to Muslims and revealed by God. And one of the teachings of Islamic prophet Muhammad is the proponent political religion figures in the 17th century CE. So we know that Islam, the founder of Islam, would be their prophet Muhammad, right? Northern Africa, Western Asia, and Central Asia, while Muslims, major countries also existed, part of South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Europe. There are also several Islamic republics, including Iran, Pakistan, the Mediterranean, and Afghanistan. These are some of the branches, off of which I'm not going to read, is the Sunni Islamic, the Shiite Islamic, I can't even pronounce that. Then you got the Nation of Islam would be one, the Sufism, the Quranism, Madhavia, you got the Baal faith. These are all different branches up under Islam. Smaller religions are Abrahamic groups, including Samaritans, primarily of Israel and West Banks of the Rastafarian movement, primarily of Jamaica, Druze, of etc. All right, African traditional religion of Kimoyo evolved slowly through many centuries, and people responded to their life situations and reflected upon their experiences. Many factors must have played a part in its development. These include geographical locations, environments, mountains, rivers, deserts, forests, the change of seasons, the power of nature, such as earthquakes, thunderstorms, volcano calamities, epidemic, diseases, birth, death, major historical events like wars, locust invasions, famines, migrations, and so on. So right here, I'm talking about how the traditions actually was developed. People hear me say this all the time. Most of Kimoyo, or African traditional religion, or African spirituality, I know people still use those terms, African traditional religion or African spirituality. Those things was based off a geographical location. Most of what y'all done heard us talk about over the years when we talk about these different ethnic groups and the original names of the practices that they have, because we understand, and we're going to talk about that when we deal with chapter 1, maybe next week or so. You know,
why the term African traditional religion actually surfaced and who actually created that, why the term African spirituality, why are we encasing, when we use those terms, we are encasing every tradition in Africa into one. We know that they have similarities, but they are different, and they are different because of the geographical locations. The geographical locations are those places that was shaped their culture, that was shaped their tradition, that was shaped their morals, that was shaped their principles, and etc. Right? Because in certain geographical locations, you know what I'm saying, certain things happen in this geographical location that may not happen, that may not necessarily happily in that other geographical location. So Africa traditional religion of Kimoyo heritage traces origins to humans, quote, quest for meanings of self-understanding, right? So the same question every people have asked themselves in the world in which they live since the dawn of human consciousness: how was the world created? How did humans and non-human forms life come to be? Why am I here? What is the meaning of life and death? Our African ancestors posed the questions, and the answer given to these questions came out of their unique experience and reflections. The answers pregnant with philosophy and theology, meaning it took a form of myths and stories, and these myths and stories would not have come about if people had not asked questions about their existence, right? So as our ancestors began to roam and they in these different places, these different geographical locations, they began to ask questions. Why waterfall from the sky? Where do we go when we die? They starting to see people die. Women begin to conceive and have children. How do they conceive? Where are these children coming from? Why is this rock is erupting with fire? Why is this river is over flooding? Why is famine upon the land? So they began to ask numerous questions regarding to what was going on in their geographical location, because again, the situation varies pertaining to a specific geographical location. So their cultural identities and ideals, their traditions was based by the experiences that they had in these different geographical locations and the questions that they began to ask, right? So they began to ask all these questions. Now, after they began to ask these questions, they began to answer their own questions. So now the natural becomes the supernatural. So now they start to believe certain things that, okay, they are dying because they didn't please a certain or they didn't please a certain deity, or they didn't do a certain thing in their lifetime. So this is why the rock is erupting. This is why the river is over flooding, or whatever the case. This is why earthquakes are among them. This is why they are dying off. So they begin to answer their own questions and come up with stories and myths on why they believe where people go when they actually die, how people are actually conceived, why water is falling from the sky, and so forth, right? Cultural ideals and practices rose and took shape in the process of man researching for answer for these questions. And as a way of making human life safer and better, they were influenced by human experience and reflections, right? No doubt many of the ideals and practices were later abandoned when they were inadequate, right? So the things that they believed at one particular time, they no longer believe. They abandoned some of those traditions and some of those things when it became inadequate. But as time went on, these ideals increased in numbers and spread it as the people increased to disperse. Many religious practices sprung up stimulus in different parts of the continent, while others spread through contacts among different societies. So this is why you will see similarities among a lot of the a lot of these different ethnic groups in Africa. You will see the similarities. You will see the ancestor veneration. You will see ancestor veneration in East Africa. You will see ancestor veneration in West Africa, right? You will see the pouring of libations in Central Africa. You will see the pouring of libations in East Africa. You will see the pouring of libations in West Africa as well. But like I'm saying, you will see some of those same elements that's implemented in these different ethnic groups, whether it's in West, South, Central, and so forth. But they have their own offsets because of the experiences in that geographical location, because a lot of those experiences are things that they deal with in them geographical location. It what sets up their cultural identities, their cultural beliefs, their cultural concepts, and et cetera, right? Characteristics and commonality of African traditional religion are Kimoyo. All things in the universe are part of the whole. There is no sharp distinction between sacred and the non-sacred. In most African tradition, there are a supreme being, a creator, a sustainer, provider, and a controller of all creation. I talk about this also. I'm going to stop right this. In another chapter, I deal with the supreme deities. The supreme deities and their functions are totally different than the Western the way that the Western gods actually operate, right? And I'm not going to talk about it on this one, but for people that read the book, people know that, you know, the supreme Africa, their supreme being, they have the supreme being, and they have lesser deities, right? But you know, we'll talk about that another time. But severe of the creator of varieties of lesser and intermediate gods and guardian spirits. These lesser gods are constantly involved in human affairs. People communicate with these gods through rituals, sacrifice, and prayers. When we know through Western religion, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, God has his hands in human affairs. But most of the African traditions or the African traditional religions are African spirituality, Kimoyo, what we refer to it to. Most of those ethnic groups, their tradition, their God does not have their hands in human affairs, right? The human condition is imperfect and always will be. Sickness, suffering, and death are all fundamental parts of life. Suffering is caused by misdeeds and offending the gods and the ancestors, or by being out of harmony with society. So, like I said, it shaped, like when they begin to ask these questions, they begin to investigate, they begin to answer their own questions in the formations of myth, folklore, and folktale, right? And they believe that when you was out of harmony with your society, or you didn't please certain deities, then this will cause some type of suffering or death, right? Ritual acts may relieve the problems and suffering of humanity, either by satisfying the offended gods or by resolving social conflict. Ritual helps to restore people's traditional values, renew their commitment of spiritual life. I also have a chapter where I deal with sacrifice. I take the spookism out of sacrifice in one of the chapters. In rituals, I go elaborate and go deeper on why rituals begin to become heavily involved into the culture, and I break down a lot of these different rituals and actually what those different rituals mean. I can't remember what's the name of the chapter. Matter of fact, let me get this. I'll get the book. Hold on. All right. And people that may got the book out now, they can run to it or jump to it if they may. Well, we're going to cover it pretty soon, but it's called Rituals and Sacrifice. That's chapter 5. So I talk about the rituals and I talk about the sacrifice. I take the spookism out of sacrifice and I break down the different things of sacrifice. Just explain or elaborate about sacrifice. But human societies and communion, ancestors, the living dead, and those yet to be born, essential parts of community. The relationship between the worldly and the overworldly helps to guide and balance the lives of the community. Human needs to interact with the spirit world, which is allowed around them. African traditional religion, or Kimoyo, differs from religions such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It has no founder like Christ, Muhammad, or Muhammad. Kimoyo does not have one hero like those religions that were just named. It has no missionaries or even a desire to propagate or religious or proselytize. And most people that follow a certain African tradition, right now, what's really popular right now in the United States, where most African Americans, are becoming practitioners in, and that's Isheshe, right? But you got other people that may be practitioners of other different things once they begin to find out exactly where they come from and actually what ethnic group they belong to. They begin, like me, I began to dibble and dabble or just even research some of the traditions. So when I looked at the Akumi system or whatever and went down and ran through, but even just dealing with those traditions, they don't propagate like Christianity. They have, which Christianity has become is a more popular religion than anything on the planet is because of the missionary work. Missionaries have traveled from near and far, right? We know missionaries set up shop in Africa. They began to set up schools in Africa. They began to educate people in Africa. They even began to educate people in America and send some of the African Americans over to Africa to participate in the missionary work in educating people about Christianity over there as well. But those, if you look at a Sheshe, or you look at a Odinani, you look at a Gulu Wankulu, you look at a Kumi, you look at numerous of those African traditions, they do not proselytize or propagate. They are not trying to convince or convert anyone into believing or practicing what they are actually practicing. But we know when you deal with Christianity, when you deal with Judaism, you deal with Islam, their God is the only God. Their God is the way. My God is the omnipotent God. My God, we know what it is, and they try to proselytize and convince you to follow their beliefs, follow their paths, think the way that they supposed to think. But in African traditional religion or African spirituality or African or Kimoyo, they do not propagate their religion, or they do not proselytize their religion and try to convert or convince someone that their tradition or their way of life is better than anybody way of life on the planet. Africans who follow the tradition religion relies on no scripture, canon texts, or holy books to guide them. In African traditional religion, guidance is provided through myths, which are handed down orally. I also have a chapter in there too, so because we're dealing with different elements. The things when we talk about, well, we mentioned rituals, we mentioned sacrifice, we mentioned poems of libations. We mentioned myths. We mentioned folk tales. A lot of these things is what make up what y'all calling African traditional religion, African spiritualities. These are different elements. There are different elements that make up what y'all are calling African traditional religion. So I talk about even oral tradition. And let me see what chapter that is in the book. Oral tradition is chapter 3. And I talk about oral tradition, and we'll talk about that at another time too. And a lot of people probably already heard there is a method to oral tradition. And when you study oral tradition in Africa, and it's not mouth not particularly mouth to ear. We when we think of oral tradition, we think of one method, and we think of me expounding something to someone else and then them expounding something to someone else. And we know through oral tradition, by the time we tell someone, they tell someone, they tell someone, they tell someone, the original message may be distorted, or it may be slightly changed, or it may be changed altogether. So there's many methods when it comes to oral tradition on how they was able to keep. And oral tradition was a very important element when it comes to African traditional religion, or when it comes to African spirituality. And I'm using these terms, even though I say we need to get away from those terms. And, I have a contention with these terms. I'm just using them right now because I know that, if I say Kimoyo, a lot of people not up on Kimoyo are not even really familiar with Kimoyo, right? What is Kimoyo, right? Even though Brother Sar had talked about it, Brother Ben has talked about it, I have talked about it, and we're trying to champion on this, and to get away from those terms. And the next chapter that we deal with, we're going to talk about those different terms. And again, I'll just say we have no agency over the term African traditional religion, and African spirituality. We'll talk about where that actually come from and why, we shouldn't use the word African spirituality, right? But that's for another day. But Africans who followed the traditional religions relied on no scripture, canon texts, holy books, and guide them. The African traditional religion guidance provided through myths, which are handed down orally. Elders, priests, and priestesses have preserved as have served as a guardian of the sacred tradition. I also talk about that as well, because we can't, when we talk about those traditions, right? When we talk about the priest and priestess, or we talk about the high priest, I even talk about that as well, because I want to break down that, especially when I get to the back of the book, when I talk about, and we already kind of talked about that already. I already did a show on there, but why we turned against our traditions, right? We know that when the king is the high priest, right? You know what I'm saying? The queen is the high priestess, right? They is over their traditions at that particular time. I'm not going to expound on that. We'll expound on that a little bit when we get to one of those chapters where I actually break down that. But the priestess have served as guardians of the sacred tradition throughout Africa. Immune myths explain the creation of the universe, how man and woman appeared in the origins of the culture, and how people arrived in their current location. Oral narratives define morals and values from traditional religion, just as written texts do for religions with sacred books. And again, oral narratives. And I know people have issues when we talk about oral narratives, or we talk about oral traditions, because those people have not studied African traditional Africa oral traditions and walk through the different methods on how they was able to keep a lot of their history, a lot of their cultural things intact through oral tradition. So there's different levels, different methods that they used, and it just wasn't just mouth to ear. But I'll say, like, and I state this in the book, that there will be no writing without oral tradition, right? There will be no writing without oral tradition. So oral tradition is just important as writing, but you have some people that stand on that, oral tradition, or they, SHIT on oral tradition, and those people have not took the time to study Africa oral traditions and the different methods. So I talk about the different methods within the book when we on chapter 3 about oral traditions. And again, there will be no writing without oral tradition. So oral tradition is just important just as important as writing, right? Some may disagree, but it's just a fact. So there you have it right there. So these were just some some of the chapter. I didn't want to chapter 2. I just wanted to deal with chapter 2, kind of walk y'all through chapter 2, walk y'all through the early evolution of man, and then walk you through how let me stop sharing and then I'll talk a little bit. Go over here. Damn. Okay. All right, I'll stop sharing right there. But just, kind of walk y'all through the evolution of man, walk y'all through walk y'all through that, and then walk y'all, into what we are the Homo sapiens sapiens, and how Homo sapiens sapiens began to disperse in the different places, and according to the geographical locations, those geographical locations that they resided in, that it would help them those geographical locations and those experiences within those geographical locations help to help with their cultural identity, formulated their traditions, formulated their perspectives, their concepts. They began to become acquisitive and begin to ask questions as we should do. We should ask questions. I know I asked 1,000 questions, you know what I'm saying? So they began to ask questions. They began to go on a quest to find some of those questions. They began to answer those questions. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, they began to ask, where did they go when they die? You know what I'm saying? So now you get these different myths that was actually formulated out of those answers. So they're answering, where do they go, where they believe their ancestors go when they die, how life, how they actually got here. So you'll get their cosmology stories, right? And through their cosmology stories, they tell how things came into existence, or how man and woman came into existence, or how nature came into existence, because we are one with nature. You can't separate them. And so through them asking questions, you know what I'm saying, they begin to formulate these folklores, these myths, their cultural identity, their cultural ideals, their cultural concepts. But I also want to walk you through, African traditional religion. It doesn't have what most of the Western religion have, such as these founders, like, like Christianity, you have Christ. I mean, you have Jesus Christ, Islam, you had a prophet Muhammad. Judaism, you have the prophet Moses, right? And within those Western religions, they have something that they call the root and guide of their faith, which is a book. So Judaism have the Torah, the Pentateuch, Christianity have the Holy Bible that consists of the New Testament and the Old Testament. Islam has the Quran, with different surahs or chapters in there. All of them have the same, heroes, or some would say prophets, some would say not prophet, but they all have the same players on the same team. So I don't understand why they're disputing against each other, because you have a Moses in the Quran, you have a Moses in the Torah, you have a Moses in the Holy Bible. A lot of their saints, their patrons are spoke in those same books. But in African traditional religion, they don't have a book that is actually binding them to their actual culture or to their faith. Their supreme deity does not operate in the same function or the same fashion as those Western religion, which I talk about those as well. They operate differently, and one thing you could say was hold on, y'all. God, leave that is loud. But Dang, I lost my train of thought. Oh, but yeah, they do not. Their supreme deity does not have their hands in human affairs, and they also have something that they deal with the lesser deities. Hold on, let me look in here. So, T'Challa, man, you got anything? I was looking in the chat. Everybody being a little bit quiet in the chat. I guess they just been listening, man. And if anybody got anything in the chat, man, I mean, if anybody got any questions, man, about that particular chapter in my book that I just read, man, I need me to elaborate on something, man. Feel free to type it in the chat, man. I didn't want to be on here. I don't want to be on here too long. I want to just kind of be a short bill today. But T'Challa, you got anything, man?
No, we just listening to you, Bill, and I don't know if there was something else that you were gonna go from this, where you was just kind of, giving the foundational work and going into, like you said, but you clarified it.
Yeah, I'm just going into like each chapter. Like the book that been out almost a year, and man, I really hadn't did, and a few people been telling me, man, you need to start going over some information in the book, man, and building on it, and then maybe answer some questions pertaining to the book, and etc. So I just been trying to make some time, man, while I do it. So I deal with chapter 10, and now I'm dealing with chapter 2, and then probably next week I'll probably deal with chapter 1. I really and it's probably gonna be I'm gonna keep that comment to myself. I'll wait till I know what's gonna happen when I deal with chapter 1. But yeah, I see what nobody. Let me look back down to here, man, in this chapter, man, and we ain't got no more comments, man. I'm not gonna hold nobody. I didn't want to hold nobody all day. I see some two people. Oh well, shoot, there's some people. I ain't stroll out right then. You going in, bro? So anybody ain't got any questions, man? Peace to everybody, man. That's in the chat, man. Brother Jehudi Ma'at.
I do want to say this.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I think that those of us who practice some form of African culture can really attest to understanding that oral tradition is the precursor to writing in its fullest, form. Because those that want to say that, oral tradition is not as reliable or as important, like you say, well, there is no other precursor to why we would write things down. Everybody has oral traditions, even those that try to downplay African oral traditions or any indigenous oral tradition. They have it within their family, even here in the West, even if they don't want to subscribe to connecting to the continent or being African at all. That's cool. I bet you have oral traditions in your whatever traditions you follow, be it just your household, wherever you at here in America, your hood, your set, however you rocking, you got some sort of oral code that binds and holds your little village and your circle. Your family, your grandma, your mother, they're the keepers of the oral traditions in modern day, even with technology, and being able to go to space, go to, parts of the deep sea, not all the way down, but we're pretty advanced nowadays, so we still have oral tradition really at the backbone of our culture and who we are as a species. That hasn't went anywhere. Just look at music today, hip hop, R&B. That's your oral tradition on a mass scale. Just telling the stories about what somebody's doing, or if they capping, rapping about something they're not doing. But nonetheless, they're telling a story. And I think it's important that we recognize that, because oral tradition ain't went nowhere and it ain't going nowhere.
Right. But you have a lot of people that actually don't respect oral tradition and don't understand oral tradition. And I don't know if this was this might have been like this might have been like 2 years ago. And it was it came up quite a bit, and then because somebody actually Sister CK actually kind of brought it to me, and I kind of had been paying attention to what people was talking about oral tradition. And dang, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, all right, my bad. I thought I had muted myself out, but yeah. So I ended up started out to write an article about oral tradition, but the article ended up turning into like a presentation. So I just did a presentation instead of article, and I actually did one on the Mossi, and then I went back and I expound on the second presentation because I had so much information, and did a part 2 to oral tradition, right? And then I said, well, I'm gonna have to take this and these 2 presentations in the article that I had started on, I'm just gonna merge them. And then when I said I got ready to write my book, I was gonna definitely expound on oral tradition and break down the different methods of what oral tradition is. Because like I'm saying, when a lot of times when we meet oral tradition, and when we think of oral, we always think mouth to ear. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. And we know if I tell you something, like I was saying earlier, and you tell somebody something, and then that person you tell the same thing, by the time it get to like the 20th or 30th person, the story may be a little bit different. So, but there's different methods. So I outlined in the book the different method, and I kept trying to reiterate with these different methods that when it comes to writing, right, we say writing is important. Writing is important, but again, there will be no writing without the oral tradition. They wouldn't have a damn thing to write about if it wasn't for the oral tradition. So oral tradition was around longer. So I explained what the griots did in West Africa. What is a griot? You know what I'm saying? What actually the griots did, what the elders in the community actually did, what the family members within it, because, you got the communities is set up in these different hierarchies within the family, outside of the family, within the clan, within the tribe, within the families, within the subgroups. What was the methods? What was the steps that they used in order to keep their history intact, in order to keep their traditions intact, in order to keep their wars, because a lot of them, talked about their wars within the thing. So, what was the steps that they did in order to win these different wars when they warred against other clans, when they warred against other people? So it was so many different levels and so many steps that they took in order to preserve their culture, their traditions, their folklore, and they did it through folklore. So I break down folklore, folk tales, myths, and so forth within there. But I break down the different methods and those different steps and what they did. You know what I'm saying? In order to keep it, and I couldn't elaborate some more, but I don't, because when I get to that chapter, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna deal with it when we talk about it. Talk about those different steps, because people may not know. They took other steps in order to preserve their culture, to preserve their history, to preserve their legacy, and so forth. But again, oral tradition is definitely important. And without oral tradition, there will be no writing. So oral tradition is just important as writing is, man. But I see Sean, he said, nah, chapter 1, what's going to happen? Yeah, you already know what's going to happen, man. I don't know I don't think it's all good. I'm not going to assume that. I'm going to get my mind off that. We've been talking about this for the past stuff that happened last weekend and some stuff that's kind of been going on and stuff been on my mind. But, certain people have certain issues with certain certain African scholars and so forth. And in my book, I use a lot of sources from a lot of people, but I try to use a lot of our own scholars, our own African scholars, those who was actually born in Africa, those who was actually educated in Africa, and those who actually came over here and got a high education over here, those who was actually entrenched in their the ethnic group that they belong to, traditions as well, and those who was actually practitioners of whatever practice they actually come from. But I mean, I you know, so I know that some people just have problems with some of our African, you know, our African scholars, because I cited a brother, my ancestor, in chapter 1, you know what I'm saying? And this brother is this doctor, this scholar is the one who actually introduced the Kimoyo, and introduced Kimoyo, and brother Asar is the one who actually introduced this doctor, African scholar, into what we call in the conscious community. And from there, you know, just reading his works, with 2 of his works, he has plenty of works, but just reading 2 of his works, one is a dissertation, one is a book, you know, and so I kind of understood, okay, he's describing it in a manner, because I already had an issue with African traditional religion, African spirituality. I've been saying that for a couple of years, but I had nothing to replace it with. But when Asar introduced it, you know what I'm saying, the term into what we call in this conscious community, you know what I'm saying, and me reading up on this scholar, this African scholar, this doctor, you know what I'm saying, it better describes our tradition. And we'll talk about that in chapter 1 next week, because, you know, anything that deal with Africa, the term would be animism, right? So if for those who read about Africa, you know what I'm saying, read on Africa, research things about Africa, the people in Africa, the culture in Africa, you know, anytime that scholars, white and even African, continental Africans and diaspora Africans began to use the same term when they're describing African culture and tradition, animism, right? There's other terms that they use too that, you know, I think I talked about in the book, but I also talked about it in volume 1, those misleading terms. And you have to understand that even when you look at some of the continental Africans using some of the terms, you have to understand that Africa, after they was enslaved, they was colonized. The missionaries came in, and what they do, they set up schools. They taught the people that what they was believing in, what they stood for, was satanic, it was demonic. So they taught them the language, so whatever it was. So if it was the French that came in, that's why you got French speaking Africans. That's why you got Portuguese speaking Africans. That's why you got English speaking Africans, because they began to come in and set up schools. They began to teach them their tongue or their native language. They began to educate them about what they believe. I mean, what they believe in. You know what I'm saying? What they believe in is greater than what they believe in. You teach them their perspective. So we was educated by them. So some of those terms that we use, you know what I'm saying, and I have in the past, I used some terms in the past, and I would just, you know, kind of regurgitating some of the things that I have read in the past throughout the years, or some of these books that excuse me, that I have read in the past. But like I said, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that over throughout the week. So I'm gonna continue to break the book down, because my aim is to go through each chapter in the book so people can get more familiar with those. He has 3 degrees, speak plenty of languages, and he has a hell of a source of his work. Right, he does. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even want to say the scholar name, because, you know, I just want to keep some, you know, the stuff, you know, let's just leave that. I'm gonna leave that alone. But I respect the guy to the fullest. And again, we can respect people even if we disagree with certain with certain things with people, we can still respect them for the work, as long as the stuff is not way out there and not way crazy, and they're making countless of errors. Then they all good. But we'll talk about that though in chapter. We'll talk about that in chapter 1. But by the time we get through with the chapters, my plan is to release the expanded version. So I stopped working on the expanded version, but I'm finna start back working on the expanded version. So y'all be looking for I hadn't really been saying too much about it because I don't want to put no more pressure on, because we've been doing a lot of stuff. But my plan is to release it. I dropped Beautiful Lessons about Kimoyo in April. I don't know when, April or something. So hold on, my battery about to die. So I want to drop oh man. Hold on, y'all. All right. So I want to drop Beautiful Lessons about Kimoyo, the expanded version, either the day before or the day after I released the first one of last year. So by the time we get through, the expanded version will have 4 new chapters. Brother Asar Imhotep wrote the introduction. Brother Benjamin Njai wrote the foreword. So you have so this book will have the foreword written by Benjamin Njai, the introduction written by Asar Imhotep, and 4 new chapters added into the book, which will give it a total of 14 chapters instead of a total of 10 chapters within this book, man. But I ain't gonna hold y'all. I can keep rambling, keep talking. I was trying to see if anybody else had some questions, or wanted me to expound on something that I read or within the book, or just had some questions in general. But since ain't nobody got no questions, man, I appreciate everybody, man, that tuned in, man, and appreciate everybody that's been supporting the channel, that's been supporting the Mossi Warrior Clan channel, that's been supporting Science with Sean channel. Appreciate the people who's been purchasing the book. Appreciate the people who's been patronizing the business, whether it's a logo or whether it's some us doing your books. And again, hit us up, man, if y'all want y'all book published. Again, we got a publishing company, same tree, different branch publishing. Because we want to try to produce more writers. So, just hit us up, man. We can give y'all the prices. We can give y'all how we work. And hopefully, this year we'll be able to interview some of the people that work that we did, so y'all can kind of see how we work, and y'all can actually see from them themselves to see how we actually, how our work ethic is and what we do. We got some stuff that we already been worked on in the past. We just waiting on them to release it. We're still working on some stuff. We got some up and coming stuff coming up. So y'all be on the lookout for that. Again, appreciate it, man. We'll deal with chapter 1. I think chapter 1 next week. We'll deal with it. It's called what is it called? It's called Kimoyo. So for people that don't really understand the term of Kimoyo, we'll break down the term of Kimoyo. We'll talk about who actually introduced the term, who wrote about Kimoyo, and we'll break down. We'll just break down the whole thing, man. Next week with chapter 1, man. So again, I want to say peace and Black African power, man. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Wait a minute, there's something else I wanted to ask y'all. Dang, what was it? It had skipped my mind. Oh yeah, man. Go. I gotta put it in. I'm gonna put it in the thumbnail, but I'll be y'all please go to type in As I Learn, We All Learn podcast when next time y'all on YouTube. As I Learn, We All Learn podcast. Next month, the end of next month, I don't know what date, but I'll be releasing 6 episodes from the As I Learn, We All Learn podcast. It's going to be on the visual. You can catch the visual on YouTube. If you in your car riding or you clean up the house, you can click on to Apple Music. You can click on the Spotify. You can click on the Amazon Music. And so tons of other platforms that you'll be able to click on, and you'll be able to listen to the podcast. But if you want to look at the visual, you can go to YouTube. So I have the YouTube visual recording, and I have the audio on all these other different musical platforms where you can actually just go listen to the podcast. And as I learn, we all learn. Go subscribe to that YouTube channel. As I learn, I'm gonna drop 6 episodes. After I drop those 6 episodes, every week I'll come back and I'll do an episode every week. So it'll be something a little bit different than normally what y'all see, but it still have informational content. I have some interviews in there. I'm gonna have current events. It's gonna be all type of stuff, a little bit different, but man, go check it out, man. It's as I learned, will it be on podcast app and iPhone? Yes, it will. It'll be on all platforms. And next time I get ready to promote it, I'll put every platform that it's a ton of platforms. I'm using God, what's the name of the platform? I can't think of the name of it. It starts with a C, but I'm using this platform. And this platform that I'm using, it allowed me to get my audio podcast on all streaming networks. So it's a list of mine. I know it's at least about 20 or 30 of them that will, that you can be able to click on and get it. But again, just go to As I Learn, We All Learn podcast, YouTube, and subscribe to the channel. I will probably never go live on. It's going to always be uploads. Always going to upload it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, then if you got, click on one of the streaming networks and check it out, man. I'm excited about that, man. So y'all be on the lookout for that. But man, just go subscribe, man. Please go subscribe to the channel, man. Go subscribe. As I Learn, We All Learn podcast. And on that note, I want to say, I'm seeing no YouTube podcast name. As I Learn, We All Learn. Hold on, y'all. I'm finna do it. Sean said he don't see it. Hold on. I'm finna do it right now. And then I'll put it in the chat. Hold on before I get off here. Post a link. All right, I'm gonna post a link. Let me do this. I'm gonna post a link, y'all. Y'all don't get off yet. I know I'm being bored right now. Hold on. Put the link in here. I'm just gonna let me see if it let me switch. Well, hold on, I'm just gonna go to YouTube. Let me share my screen too, so y'all can see it. Hold on, y'all. Let me pull it up. As I Learn. There it is right there. I don't know what's showing. Hold on. No, it didn't pull up. I'm finna put the link in there now. Y'all, let's see. No, it's not. For some reason, it's not. I don't know. I had to get the link, man. I'm on my Mac, and it shouldn't matter if I'm on my Mac. I'm saying switch accounts. Let's see. Let me go over here and try it right here. Will it do it right here? Let's go back here. Y'all give me 1 second. I don't know why it's not pulling up, because I just shared it when I put out the lit video. I had the link in there. Hold on. Kofi. Let's do this. Switch accounts. It's not showing, y'all. I had to get it. I don't know what done happened, but I had to get it, man. But I'm out of here though, man. I'm finna jump up off here, man. Again, man, peace and Black African power, man. I said ETM Hotep ETM Hotep in the beginning. Now I'll say Shemim Hotep, man. Shemim Hotep just means to depart and peace. I'll leave y'all with Obafemi's song. I forgot the name of it, man, but I'm finna get out of here, man. Appreciate y'all, man. And we'll see y'all The next time, man. We out of here, man.
It's over, yeah. Over man. You know it. It's so, Shout out to United First. Yeah. Hey. Hey. Cognitive dissonance, colonized indigenous minds, bodies, innocence. European participants, Jesus no deliverance. Rebellion with militants, culturally different. Rape, murder incidents, justice no equivalence. Lyrical abolitionists, ancestral reverence. Soul music, the resonance. Mind sharp like elephants, melanin glow, elegance. Imperial pestilence, governmental negligence. Miracle black excellence, manipulate the elements. Formulate with eloquence, bars of social relevance. United Snakes decadence, African-centered preference. My people set the precedence. MCE the delegates, go and check the references. Eat it out the sediment, evaporate impediments. This that shit excrement, our story indefinite. Saying cover by increments. Body temple instrument, tuned into the infinite. Over.